Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back to your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as was the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. One of the most interesting topics around crypto in the last few years has always been CBDCs, what's going to be happening around a CBDC, what's going on with CBDCs. And now that we are in 2024, the discussions have not slowed down. They have only increased. And here we actually have from Black Swan Capitalist, we do see every nation globally either has or is in the process of creating a CBDC. Rather than imposing it forcefully, they're strategically engineering a situation prompting an urgent demand, making the introduction of a CBDC a welcome solution for most. If it doesn't happen, great. Now, I've been talking about a possible scenario where they have all of these individuals that are leveraging debt, which, let's be honest, most of the global population is running on debt. The entire global system runs on debt. The big thing that we need to understand and know is the fact that the entire monetary system that we know of today is a Ponzi scheme. Let's be honest with ourselves. Now, for them, they know that most people are leveraged in terms of debt, and interest rates are swallowing up a large portion of those leveraging debt. How can they incentivize individuals to utilize a CBDC? Hey, we'll wipe your debt if you utilize a CBDC. If you have a CBDC wallet, you will never have to worry about debt again. And that seems like a big weight lifted off their shoulders, but ultimately speaking, we know where a CBDC gets us, right? But this is how they are going to engineer it, in my opinion. I am always open to everyone else's opinions. What do you think is going to be the major situation prompting an urgent demand around the CBDC? I'd love to know all your thoughts on this. Comment down below your personal opinion on what is going to be happening. But in my opinion, it is really looking at debt, because we do know that the entire system is basically a Ponzi scheme. What do they really gain from wiping debt? What do they lose from wiping debt? It's basically a win-win for them to wipe the debt and give you a CBDC, because it gives them total control. Now, also over here, this is a great post that I actually seen by Digital Asset Investor, where you see all planned controlled demolition. This is what's coming. And remember, yeah, this is all being manipulated. This is manipulation of the global system in order to have the end scenario in their favor. Check this out.
Here's the thing. Lael Brainerd, she just ran point for FedNow, which just came out a few months ago. That's like Venmo and Zelle on steroids, backed by the Federal Reserve. It will take the place of checks and wires within 1 year. But as far as a central bank digital currency, you're right. How do you get people to take it? How do you get people to say, I'm not going to take that dang thing that is programmable and lock me out of my own money if I don't get a vaccine, or I don't do this, or I don't do that? Well, I'll tell you how you do it. You lose the world reserve status. You create an event where the dollar gets dumped globally, interest rates spike to the moon, everything collapses, and those SOBs did it to us. But have no fear, because Lael Brainerd is here, and she ran point on development with MIT of the new central bank digital currency. And I know you guys have lost everything. We understand that your stock portfolio has blown up. All the money in the banks have blown up because the banks are on razor's edge, and rates went so high, not by the Fed. It's a byproduct of what those guys did. And now all the money in the banks are gone, and the banks have collapsed. But all you need to do is sign on the dotted line. Take this CBDC, we make you whole. And now you have an event that people will rally behind, just like half the public rallied behind wearing masks and doing things without evidence, without proof. We all knew better. The same thing is true here. They will prey upon the gullible nature of the West to believe that we were victims in all of this. And it's the only way, in my mind, that you can get people to take the CBDC. Everyone I talk to every day, I'm not taking that thing, but what happens if the dollar blows up the way that I mentioned? Because we're going to lose the reserve status or the petro status, and no one has to hold dollars anymore, and every country in the world has had to hold them for 50 years. Boom, they dump them. Massive inflation, interest rates spike, everything collapses, including the banks. Have no fear. Sign on the dotted line and you'll be made whole. So I do think it's coming. The BIS said everyone needs to have one. It was written into executive order. It's coming. If you take all of the global GDP, all of it, 95% of the global GDP or the countries that stand behind it, every single one of them have a CBDC either operational or in development. It's coming, and either you get prepared for it best you can, or you get run over by it. And I think that is, I agree with you. This is intentional. It's too stupid to be stupid otherwise.
And this is also why I say, when we look at what's coming, it is going to shock the middle class. But it's not just the middle class. It's going to shock a large portion of the entire population. Because a lot of them still think that this is some conspiracy theory. It's not actually happening. And I mentioned this. Go back to March of 2023. I want you all to realize that we are witnessing a shift happening in the financial system. Power shifting, the reserve currency being questioned, banks beginning to crumble, crypto now being targeted. Do you ask why? They want to release CBDCs. This will ignite the rise of the new system. CBDCs always get the free pass by the bankers while they blatantly attack crypto. It's all about control and keeping the central banks at the top of the food chain. We see regulations or regulators in the US targeting staking as a service. Why? Oh yeah, that's because the national average APY for savings accounts is 0.33%. Take this into consideration with the average common APY for DeFi being 5 to 15%. Do you see the problem? Crypto and the world of DeFi eats away the dominance banks hold over the retail sector. Why would I hold my money in a savings account or even a CD where it gets eaten alive by inflation? This is why banks can't compete with this industry. Instead, they call upon regulators to target and attack this nascent industry. They want strict regulations to give more power to the banks, and Wall Street suits focus on the much bigger picture and ask yourself the right questions. And this is so crucial to understand now, because now that we've seen all of this, catastrophic demise, if you will, of banks, and now all of a sudden the US dollar's being questioned and the US dollar's falling in terms of dominance. Guess what else we're seeing at the same exact time? The BIS, the IMF, the World Economic Forum, all of the elite organizations talking about CBDCs. You literally had Elizabeth Warren and Jamie Dimon telling everyone, hey, there's zero use case for crypto outside of it being utilized for, drug trafficking, this, that. It has no use case. But this is a massive banker, Jamie Dimon, who has private blockchain-based technology that he's utilizing. Do you question why they're constantly attacking this industry? It's very simple. But also, on top of all of this, look at what we just saw. Bank of Spain partnered with 3 major players for CBDC test, focusing on tokenized payments with bonds distinct from EU's digital euro. The pilot of the wholesale CBDC will take place in the next 6 months and will feature the simulation of the processing and settlement of interbank payments with a single tokenized wholesale CBDC and by exchanging several wholesale CBDCs issued by different central banks. Again, when we talk about CBDCs, the overall experimentation around these is only increasing. It's only accelerating. Bank Indonesia is advancing its efforts to launch a trial for its CBDC, the digital rupiah, in 2024. Governor, and I'm not going to try to pronounce their name, revealed that the digital rupiah will utilize blockchain technology aiming to digitize the Indonesian currency. Again, this is scheduled this year. And then also, on top of all of this, we just seen Christine Lagarde confirm that the ECB is preparing to roll out a CBDC. Check this out.
Here at the ECB, we are the custodians of the euro. We serve you by taking care of our currency, working for price stability, and making sure that we keep the euro fit for the future. We are 25 years old, but this is only the beginning of the euro's journey as we bring our currency into the digital age by preparing the foundation for a possible digital euro to complement cash. By the way, by the same token, we are also working hard on even more beautiful banknotes. We will keep working towards greater European integration in whichever way we can. Your euro, your money.
So there you guys have it. And again, this is something that they told us about leading up to the fall timeframe. We had Christine Lagarde talking about the digital euro and addressing CBDCs and limitations on CBDCs. As we really look at what's going on here, they are moving extremely fast. Now, one thing to note with CBDCs or even without CBDCs, instant settlement is still a focus point. For an example, Ledger Insights, in case you missed it, the ECB has issued a vendor application call for 5 digital euro CBDC components. The total budget, roughly $1.2 billion over a 4-year period. And guess what? This excludes main settlement system. Why? Because the settlement system is already there. It's already in place. I've talked about this. Third-party players are the key here. That could very well be Ripple. We know Ripple just recently had, in December, a major survey regarding CBDCs, cross-border payments, even blockchain-based systems. But also we saw this announcement, which was Ripple added to the Central Bank of Ireland's VASP. This was a big one. But also we know that Ripple has been in discussion with over 20 to 30 central banks. And they gained a ton of momentum with XRP just last year alone. And then last but not least, we have this video from June of last year. This is with ISO 22 Let's Do It. This is an individual from the actual US Federal Reserve discussing how they could delegate clearing and settlement to a third party like Ripple for a US CBDC. Check this clip out.
That is, people say, how can you trust, the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, like I said, my response is, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to mess around with your bookkeeping. So, we have this big spreadsheet, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin, if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose, the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not FedWire for all, but kind of like a Fed coin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, but and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol, or possibly even Bitcoin. I mean, we could delegate the responsibility of processing these electronic, Fed coin payments to the miners. And the idea there would be,
And again, we all know that it's not going to be Bitcoin simply due to the inefficiencies there, but this is a significant thing to look into because guess what? We now have major CBDC traction happening. 93% of the world is moving towards CBDC experimentation and even implementation. And at the end of the day, what we are witnessing within our global financial system, all of this is planned. It's controlled demolition. It's self-sabotage of our actual financial system. And I even said this going all the way back to August as well. I even said Biden, right? Everyone is saying, oh, Biden's doing such a bad job. What if he's actually playing and doing his job perfectly by plan? I don't like to be political. I don't care if you're blue, red. It does not matter to me. But Biden is being utilized in a way that most are misinterpreting. Let me explain. Everyone has seen the countless videos of him stumbling over, barely being able to say a full sentence, stuttering, etc. What's the goal here? Well, all the right media is saying he is incompetent, and most would agree, correct? The end goal here is that you'd blame the downfall of our economy and the traditional system on incompetence. The truth is that it's all by design, and Biden isn't even the one in charge. He is not the one pulling the strings. Rather, someone else is pulling his strings. BRICS expanding with Russia, launching a CBDC, the US falling greatly behind, the dollar is being challenged heavily, blah, blah. Remember, problem and solution. Create the problem while already having the solution. We already have the rails and infrastructure in place. Fed now is that. Most don't view it like that, but the US is ready to accommodate this new technology when they need to. A US CBDC is probably already created, and they are just waiting for the perfect launch. Go back to March 2022 when they were distracting you with Russia and sanctions. What did they launch? Executive Order 14067. Go read what this is, and it will open your eyes to their plan. They will continue to paint the picture that the US is losing dominance globally and that the reserve currency status is in trouble. This is when they use that and play off of it to introduce the CBDC system. They will sell it by saying we need to protect the US and the dollar's global status. Welcome to the digital age of finance. Focus on researching utility tokens that will most likely be utilized within this new system, because it's happening. A few. Keep focusing on the fourth industrial revolution and what's happening behind the scenes. And I could not say this any better now, because I said this back in August of last year, and a lot has changed technically since that point. When we are addressing distractions, ETFs, Epstein, this, that, think about what is really going on here. We are witnessing the downfall of our actual economy, and it's all by design to usher us into the digital age of finance. I do fear CBDCs slightly, but I also talked about how CBDCs are not that much different than what we have today, but they are going to try to push this on us heavily. They are going to create some sort of major problem, and a lot will argue that we already have these problems right now. Debt out of control. I mean, hell, when you look at the overall debt right now, and I just made a video about it, since the debt ceiling got removed or paused, I mean, look at debt. It is skyrocketing. On top of that, nobody wants to buy our debt. On top of that, they want to print more money. They want 50 trillion by 2030. And on top of all of that, the US dollar and its use as a viable reserve currency outside of the US is starting to be questioned, and it's starting to get thrown to the side. This is when everything changes. We are going to see the average individual get completely wiped out, and it's due to the fact that they are not researching. They are distracted by nonsense, mainstream media, or scrolling on TikTok for hours on end, digesting terrible content that's not teaching them a single thing about what's actually happening here. Pay attention, be vigilant, and understand what's going on. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.